Book 2, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and here is my review for Christine by Stephen King. Now, when I became aware of this book by King, I wasn't sure if I would actually like it, because I'm not a car person. In fact, I have disabilities that make me unable to drive, so I had no interest in cars. But I actually was very interested in the story, and King does have a way of pulling you in and getting you into the story, and even, being invested in being invested in these characters. So, the story is technically told from the point of view of Dennis, our protagonist. Although he only tells the beginning section and then the last section, because in the middle section his character disappears, is temporarily put out of commission. But so we have Arnie Cunningham. He is a good boy. He's very smart. He has a pretty good relationship with his parents. I mean, sort of good. They kind of control his life a little bit, particularly his mother. He's very smart, but unfortunately, he's also not a tough guy. He's, his face covered with acne, so he gets the nickname of Pizza Face. And he's not very assertive. He doesn't have a lot of confidence. He's very awkward and very shy, but he's a good kid. And his best friend, our narrator, is Dennis, who is, he's an athlete, he's a cool guy, he's very tall, so he's very loyal to Dennis, and he really cares about him, so he is always protecting Dennis from the school bullies. So one summer, before their senior year of school starts, Arnie spots this 1957 red Plymouth. And it is love at first sight. Which one of the things he's actually good at is cars, along with chess. And he is, even though he's a hunk of junk, he's excited. He sees it says, "This is a classic car. I can fix it up. It's awesome." And he meets the owner, who is this crouchy, cranky, bitter old man who thinks everyone else in the world are losers, or his word is, excuse my French, but he calls everybody shitters. And he really sees a kindred spirit in Arnie, because they're both loners and both considered losers. And he's like, "I'm gonna give you this car, he really wants Arnie to buy the car. But Dennis he's got bad vibes from this car, and he also does not like this guy. The owner of the car, George is the brother, Roland LeBay. He is very wary of him, but he cannot get Arnie to change his mind. He can't convince Arnie not to buy the car. Arnie is going to buy it whether Dennis likes it or not. And of course, Dennis is not the only one. Arnie's parents, are not too happy with him buying the car either. They don't like that he didn't talk to them first, that he just bought it. And his mom, who's used to, kind of controlling his life, is especially pissed off about this. And, even tells him, you're not leaving this car in our yard. And he ends up taking it to this shady garage in town, where supposedly the guy who owns it, Will Darnell, he's into a lot of shady dealings, and that he sells parts and all that. And one of Arnie's bullies, Buddy Robertson, also works on a car there, and even as soon as he realizes Arnie's there, he targets Arnie and is picking on him. And Will actually kicks him out of the garage, because, I guess he sees something in Arnie, sees a benefit to Arnie being the one there. And Arnie just spends all his time and all his energy on fixing up this car. He becomes obsessed with this car. And it's all about that. And he doesn't spend time with Dennis. He doesn't come home. He's just always working on his car. And the only hope that Dennis has for his friend is that Arnie finally actually gets a girlfriend for the first time. This new girl in town, Lee Cabot, and she's really smart too. She's very focused on her academics. She's a very sweet and kind person, and he thinks, and even though he's a little jealous because he thinks he likes her, he kind of likes her, he also is happy that his friend actually has a girlfriend. And he thinks, oh, this will be good because it will keep him away from, it might, balance the scale and keep him not so obsessed with the car. But of course, what ends up happening is that it becomes Lee versus Christine, because he does not prioritize Lee. He still focuses only on the car. And then at one point, Buddy and his friends decide to destroy the car, decide to wreck the car when Arnie leaves it somewhere because he can't leave it at home. His mom won't let him. And they destroy his car, and he is so pissed off about it. And they, and for him, it's Christine and him against the world, basically. And coincidentally, there end up being some, the Buddy and his friends each end up in danger, end up getting their lives in danger. They end up getting killed. So, like I said, I did not think I would like this book, but I actually really enjoyed it. So, I did like Dennis. He was a very good friend. He really cared about Arnie and respected him and wanted to look out for him. He was very loyal to him. He was just a decent guy. But there is one thing that makes him not as likable. He does cross a line at one point and is very disrespectful to Arnie. And so it's one of those things where it's like, you could make the case that, yeah, he crossed the line. He should not have done that. That was messed up. It doesn't matter what Arnie was, what happened with Arnie. Dennis should not have crossed that line. That was messed up. He's a terrible friend. But I think you can also make the case that the characters, they're teenagers. They're hormonal teenagers. And Arnie he was going down a bad path. He was screwing up his life. And of course, you could make the case that it wasn't entirely his fault, because Stephen King, what he did really good in this book, and I think probably because he can sort of relate to it, is that he compares Arnie's obsession with this car and his falling in love with this car is like being addicted to drugs. And, it's described, the way it's described here is really good. And you do see it in the adaptation. I did watch the adaptation the other night. Just the way he's thinking, because you do get when Dennis is put out of commission, because he ends up getting a football he ends up getting a football injury, and he's in the hospital all the way up until Christmas, until New Year's. And so the middle section of the book, you're kind of in third person narrative. So you do get in, there are some chapters where you are inside of Arnie's head, and you see his obsession has grown massively, and he just can't live without this car. And there's at one point where Lee gives him the ultimatum because she almost chokes while in the car, and she thinks that, and she could have sworn when she was looking at the dashboard, that there were glowing green eyes looking at her, and she felt like the car wanted her to choke. And she's absolutely terrified of this car, and gives him the ultimatum. And one other thing I forgot to mention in the description of the plot was that Arnie all of a sudden has a completely, he gets more confident to the point of being cocky, a little too confident, and his physical appearance changes. He loses all his acne, and he almost becomes, he doesn't almost, he does become this mean, selfish person, angry person. And he completely changes personality. That's another thing that Lee doesn't like, is how he's also a completely different person. And the same with his mom. In fact, he, bullies his mom into submission at one point, and he just thinks that it's petty of her to be jealous of a car. And which on the surface level, why he's able to rationalize that, because he knows what's going on with the car. He knows that deep down, he knows. Like I said, you're in his head in the middle section for a part, not throughout the whole thing. I mean, you're with different characters throughout, but you are in his head for a lot of the book. And you can tell he is aware of this car's power over him, and he's struggling with it, but it makes him feel good. Like, every time he's confused, he's stressed, he's angry, he's emotional, he has to touch the car. He has to get inside the car when he can't deal with things. And that makes him feel better. And it's kind of like, from, like, kind of like how drugs are. They make you feel good temporarily. It's even if it's killing your body and messing up your mind, it still feels good because it gives you a thrill. It gives you this psychedelic feeling like you're on cloud 9. So it's like, it's the same thing with this car. He feels good. It makes him, in his mind, clear-headed. And he kind of snaps at Lee. He gets mad at her when she's like, it's me or the car. And he justifies it, even though, like I said, he knows in his mind that this car is different. That maybe this car is actually more alive than he cares to admit it. It's almost like he's trying to justify to himself when he's telling Lee, oh, come on, it's just the car, it's not real, you're crazy. It's almost like he's trying to tell himself that, because deep down he knows it's not crazy. And that she might have a good point. And it kind of gets between, like I said, it gets between him and Lee. Which is really sad. Because, like Dennis, we were so happy that he has a girlfriend, because he seems like a sweet, decent, good guy. And also probably a stable guy, at least in the beginning, like, because he's also very smart, so he could go to college and get a good job and do well in life. So he would be a good, before Christine gets to him, he would have been a good husband, eventually, once he reached to his 20s and 30s. So it's almost tragic, because he seemed like such a sweet, caring guy, and I think he really did care about Lee. Like, at one point, even though they break up, he still thinks, oh, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna follow her to college, and we're gonna get married, and then we're gonna have a family and all that, and me, Lee, and Christine. And he's, in his mind, that's what's gonna happen no matter what. Despite her, it doesn't matter what she thinks, that's what's gonna happen whether she likes it or not. So it comes from, like, if he wasn't, which is sad, because Christine kind of, like, like, it would have been a beautiful fantasy if not for Christine being in there as well. So it's really tragic. Like, as the main character, he, you feel bad for him, but at the same time, as he changes and as he evolves as a character and gets meaner and meaner to the point of being violent, I was so pissed off and frustrated with him. And like I said, and as for Lee, she's a nice character, she's very smart, she's very sweet and caring. I don't have any strong opinions. I liked her character, but it's not like I have any strong feelings on the character. She really cared about Arnie, but she wasn't like a strong character. It wasn't like, she was just kind of the secondary character, like how she was the love interest, basically. How, you know, you always have those stories with this, like the superhero stories, or, you know, the stories where someone, you know, is gonna save the world. They always have a romantic partner. They always have a love interest that you're rooting for. I mean, that you hope that they are able to save them. That's what she was. She wasn't a bad character. She was a well-written character, but she was just like, there was nothing really like, I don't have anything strong to say about her. Arnie's mom was a character, like, Stephen King has a way to make you kind of like, if you just can't stand it, even if you can't stand a character in the beginning, he kind of has a way to make you pity them, feel sorry for them, and actually like them, or at least not want anything bad to happen to them by the end of the story. I mean, the bullies in school, which he's also very good at writing bullies that you just, I mean, like, bullies that are just monstrous people that you're actually rooting for. If this is a monster story, you're rooting for the monster to get them, to get the bullies. You don't, it's hard to feel sorry for those characters. Like, I was waiting for the moment when Christine would strike and go after those guys. But of course, you know, Stephen King has a way of building up the tension. He takes his time, which can be both good and bad. I mean, sometimes for, you know, if you just don't have the patience for that. But he really builds up the tension, you know, it just builds up the anticipation, the eagerness for the moment when when shit hits the fan and the evil thing strikes. Because I just kept waiting, as I was reading, I just kept waiting for the moment when the people would be put in danger, when the car would attack, because I knew it was coming, because I know a little bit about the book. But anyway, back to Arnie's parents. So I liked his dad. I didn't have any serious problem with his dad. But in the beginning, I did not like his mom because she's very controlling. Like I said in the beginning, she was a very controlling person. It was all about, like, it has to be my way. That's the only thing, things will get done the way I want it done. Like, he will only succeed if we do it, he would only succeed and go on the right path if we do it my way. She very much wears the pants in the relationship, while his dad is more passive in the beginning. Although, once Arnie, quote unquote, puts Regina in her place, like, his dad takes the wheel, he takes charge, and he gets more aggressive and more like he's the one who makes Arnie keep the car at the airport, which pisses off Arnie more because, one, he has to take the bus, and two, that's where Buddy, in the book at least, that's where Buddy and his guys destroy the car. Now, I just watched the movie adaptation, and in the movie adaptation, they don't have the airport stuff, which I understand. I mean, it was just easier to just have, you know, the garage, the houses of the characters, in the high school. Like, it was just easier to do that than include, I mean, we don't even really see much of Dennis's family in the movie. So it was probably, they didn't want to deal with another location that would only have a couple scenes there. So I'm sure that's probably why they didn't have the car at the airport. They just had it at the garage, at Will Darnell's garage. But, you know, when he bullies his mom, and is like, oh, I bet this is exactly what you wanted. You wanted my car to be destroyed. You don't care about me. You just care about your plan. It has to be your way and everything. Like, I did feel bad for her, because I think she had good intentions. She loved her son and believed that her way was the right way. And she's kind of, like, pitiful when she's, you know, when she's grieving the loss of her son. And I did feel sorry for her. Again, like, what else do I want to say? He says, like, once I get to a point, and then I don't know what else I want to say. Okay, so, like I said, King definitely built up tension. I kept waiting for the right moment when the car would strike. I do think the adaptation is really good. It does change things, which I understand. Change is inevitable in an adaptation of a book. I mean, there's some things that it's just more convenient for them to change it up. I don't know why they got rid of, I guess because, LeBray, I mean, I want to say LeBray, not LeBray, Roland LeBay, it didn't make sense to have, like, he's only in a couple scenes. So I guess they didn't want to, like, it was just easier to have one, to get rid of the extra character, say, get rid of the extra character and just have the one person, which was the brother, because then they would be, like, they would get the information they need from the character, and, I mean, like, I think it was just kind of convenience. Which that brings me to the other thing that is not included in the movie adaptation that I wish they had, but maybe they couldn't do it or something, or again, convenience. But there's a couple times where we see the corpses, the living corpses of the character of the people that Christine kills, which was really cool and really creepy. Like, this book is creepy, and how you react to the car scenes, the big car scenes, the dangerous scenes, I guess will depend. Like, I definitely got into it more when watching the movie. It was more entertaining in the adaptation because I got the visuals, I got the sound effects and everything, and with, no matter how good my imagination is, sometimes I can't always picture things, especially if something that I've never seen before. So the adaptation did help with that. I mean, it was still tense, tense and everything, but I do think it helped having watched the movie adaptation. Which, I mean, I said, like, I saw that before. I didn't see the movie adaptation before, but it did, I think it was more exciting in the adaptation. I did hear they're going to remake Christine, do another adaptation. So, like the person I watched who does reviews, books versus movie reviews, they were wondering about if the new adaptation was gonna stick much closer to the book, because the original adaptation was pretty good, a pretty good adaptation, stick kind of close. I mean, it changed things. Like I said, some changes are inevitable, but I wonder if some of the changes that they made, will they put them back in there if they make another adaptation? And it's gonna be done by Blumhouse, which, they're really good with unique horrors. I mean, I think occasionally they do other stuff, I've noticed, but they're actually really, they do some unique, fun horror movies, I've noticed. I haven't watched all of them, but from the trailers and everything, they look very interesting. What Blumhouse does, Blumhouse Production Company. But yeah, I really enjoyed. This was really fun. I'm glad I got to read this because this is one of his more known novels. I mean, although most of his novels are pretty known, I mean, there are people that have mixed opinions. Sometimes people love it, sometimes people hate it. I'm one of the people that loved it. I had a good time with it. So, that are my thoughts on Christine. If you read Christine, I would love to know what your thoughts were on it. And, it was also pretty, it's not as long as, like, The Stand or like, The Talisman or whatever, so it might be another good early read, early Stephen King read. Unless you just don't like, the supernatural and stuff. Although this isn't heavy on the supernatural. I mean, it does, well, it's probably more heavy. It definitely has a lot more than, Dead Zone does, but anyway, so that is Christine. Like I said, if you've read it or you're interested, let me know. And I hope you like my review, and I will talk to you all later. All right, bye!